Hey there, you're watching the Jessa channel on YouTube. I'm Jessa, and this is Pathfinder Kingmaker, the Enhanced Edition. I am live, as always, on this Valentine's Day. And we are going to go, we're going to celebrate. Like, I had this idea that we're going to celebrate a Valentine's Day massacre by going out and basically kicking a troll's butts. Basically. We're going troll butt kicking today. Because it's just really, it just feels like the day where we all want to gather together in the spirit of love and kick troll butt. And I'm good with that. So people are in chat are excited about this plan, and this is what we're going to be doing. Now, we already met the nymph in her verdant chambers, and Zara was very distressed to find out that in the Stolen Lands, so much of nature is warped that even the nymph has betrayed her. She is heartbroken about this. And Bracken has been staying close by her side. But we have finished this, our just reward, and that moves us along to Troll Trouble. We're also going to go pick up a new companion. We must learn more about those trolls. They must have a hidden lair. And so let's go out into the world and find out where we can find these trolls for the aforementioned butt kicking. We are here on the world map, and I believe we need to go to Bald Hilltop. But before we do that, I'm actually going to take a little bit of a scenic route to get there, because I want to make sure that we pick up a companion. And a little tip for those of you guys who are watching this later on: if you decide to take up Pathfinder Kingmaker, which I highly recommend. I love this game. I really do. It's probably my second favorite RPG, Skyrim being first. So yeah, a ford across Skunk River, and there's a companion here. Now, he can get missed. Like, if you happen to come to this ford before Troll Trouble, like we did, there was no one there. And then you just think it's an empty location, that there's nothing going on there. But you have to wait until Troll Trouble Chapter 2 officially begins, and then he'll be there. However, after Troll Trouble, he disappears, and you can't ever find him again. And so that kind of sucks if you happen to just do it just a little bit out of order. All right. And there's some other things to clear here as well, but let's first, let me move Zara back to the place she's supposed to be. There we go. So Valerie is in the lead. And she walks along testing her sword and whistling a tune to herself. And suddenly, battle ensues. We're going to we are using the turn-based mod, but we're going to keep it off for this battle, because this is a pretty easy battle. But we have some people here. This is Jubilost. Oh, is that like a... Oh, these are not drowning animals, by the way. I have an option on that I like. Over here, down here, it says critters instead of blood. So when you get like a hit, which would, just be really bloody, like a critical hit, or any kind of, basically a strong hit on an opponent, random critters will fly out of your blade. And this is for anyone who happens to be fighting. So that's why these critters are flying out down the river. They're swimming. They're not drowning. There we go. And it's a kobold massacre, complete with bunnies. Look at all these guys. They better not be dead. Don't tell me I just accidentally drowned a bunch of... You guys better move. Okay, they're moving. Thank goodness. That scared me. Uh-oh. And we also have some kobolds up here. And who is this? Our old friend Tartuk? He says, so, the gnome invites some of his friends. Stupid, slow, sluggish gnome. Now, if you remember, we killed Tartuk in the old sycamore. Back in the episode in which we took to him down in the old sycamore, and the Might Queen episode, and we remember that she had she was angry at her ex-husband and tried to make a play on Tartuk, and he spurned her amorous advances. And so she wanted us to kill him, but also we had an order to kill him from the Sword Lord Aldori to clear our name, which we did. So Zara is very surprised to see Tartuk alive and well. She says, I thought you were dead. I remember seeing your shattered remains myself. What evil magic have you employed? The kobold sentinel the kobolds yell, Gnome! 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 Ignoring Zara completely, unfazed by the fact that Tartuk is alive again and they're being suckered a third time by him. Stupid! Stupid! Haha, Tartuk says, there is a purple kobold on the riverbank who looks just like your old acquaintance Tartuccio. Tartuk replies, kobolds want this cart. Kobolds shall have it. And he is back in his... Now, he is not a kobold. He is definitely faking these kobolds out, but we have found out that they are not the smartest creatures in Galarian. The horse skull hides most of the kobold's face, but you see his vicious eyes glinting through empty sockets staring at you. By orders of myself, the glorious King Tartuk! Ha! The kobold pounds his chest with his fist. Zara raises one eyebrow and wonders if death did a number on what was left of Tartuccio's sanity. The kobolds repeat, Tartuk! Ah! King! Ah! And they raise their swords in triumph. And then we have someone standing in the river, pants very wet, whose name is Jubilost. The head of the gnome expedition wipes his brow and glares at the kobold. This bastard was one talking our ears off while the rest of them was trying to steal our cart. Now I haven't heard Jubilost's voice actor. I haven't heard it yet. So I'm just making up this voice until we hear what his voice sounds like. Ha! Jubilost snorts. King Tartuk. The gnome looks at Zara and winks. What do you say for a bit of regicide, eh? Zara says, a moment, please, and lifts a hand. Trying to ignore that Bracken is very uncomfortable standing in the middle of a river, water not being his favorite thing. Zara says, Tartuccio, I recognize you. What is this new disguise? And as I mentioned before, why are you not dead? How dare you speak like that, you king? Kobolds attack Shirdaz! No one knows what Shirdaz means. Even the kobolds themselves. But the sentinels gather up the war cry. Shirdaz! Shirdaz! And they start jumping around, their tails flailing wildly, working themselves up into a little koboldian lather. That's a soap that you do not want to buy. You see one of those commercials on that late night television, like 3 a.m., and they're like, whip yourself up a nice koboldian lather. Oh, don't buy it. Don't buy it. You'll be very sorry when the UPS man delivers that. And the kobolds have been, it looks like they've been hasted. And I think battle is going to ensue again, with Bracken happy to get out of the river, rushing the kobolds. And Jubilost, his gnome friends, Zara, Tristian, and Lindsay, long-range combatants, are back here. And the kobolds don't even seem to care that their brothers are, just lying in this river. And they, whipped into the aforementioned lather, go to battle. Bracken takes down the kobolds without too much trouble. And bunnies are floating down the river with their little paws behind their backs. And a little chick on each of their stomachs as they go floating down the river. I love this game, man. Any game that allows you to change, like some games you can turn the blood off. That's cool. But what game do you know of where you can turn the blood into bunnies? I love this game. And the team goes flying ahead, and I'm not even going to bother. They're on automatic pilot here, and it is a massacre. See you soon enough. This is not over. Shirdaz! Now we have a cart. My cart! It's sinking! And the gnomes start to pull on their cart. I'm holding it. Hold it at once. Now we have some trouble here. My nose is itching. Did you hear that? Did you see that? My nose is itching. I can't scratch it, you guys. Please come to my rescue. But we also have these ponies, and we definitely do not want to lose the ponies as well as the cart. So Zara says, I'm coming. Bracken! Come in and put your teeth to it. And Bracken comes running over and grabs the cart. While the gnomes were busy fighting the kobolds, furiously cursing and diligently punching their unwelcome guests right in their dragonish snouts, the cart was all but forgotten. The unwitting cause of the fight, it was being dragged away by the scared ponies when it slid down the ford, sinking all the way up to the coachman's seat in the river. This was where the Skunk River flows into the Tuskwater, and the current becomes excessively spiteful, cold, stubborn, and turbulent. Having taken hold of the gnome's cart, the Skunk River must have decided to drag it down amid all the commotion, but it was caught in the act. The surviving gnomes, led by the head of the gnome expedition, an extremely loud and crabby fellow, but not without some managerial talent, were able to catch the cart before it floated away. Faces red and grunting from the strain, they struggled to keep it from drowning entirely. Just then, a package fell into the water. With a heartbreaking splash, it vanished beneath the current, only to resurface 10 meters down the river. No! The head of the gnome expedition moaned as he glowered at the package. That was Alchemy in Life, the latest issue. After plunging into the cold river, the ponies immediately lost their nerve. Swiveling their ears and twitching, they tried to chew through the reins and throw off the load. Why are you just standing around? Says the little gnome. Go on, help them! The head of the gnome expedition was visibly dissatisfied, that's putting it mildly, as he shouted. Zara yells to Bracken, hold it tight! And Bracken's tail is pointed, straight outwards as he's grabbed onto it with his jaws and his all four paws, digging down into the riverbed and pulling with the gnomes, but he's a very strong creature. However, against a wagon and a raging river, Lindsay is trying not to be drowned herself, and Valerie also begins to wade over. But because she's on the other side of the river and she's wearing heavy armor, she's making slow progress. Tristian is standing nearby, wondering what spell could possibly help in this situation. Octavia is yelling about her wet under things, and that leaves Zara to come to the rescue. She is going to attempt to untie the cart from the ponies, but she also wants to make sure that the ponies do not drown. She feels that the ponies would have a better chance to scramble up to the riverbank if they did not have a heavy cart tied to them. Yes! Yes! Zara nimbly climbs up onto the roof of the cart and carefully crawls toward the ponies hitched up at the riverbank. The ponies seem to be relieved to feel a firm hand holding the reins again. They calm down right at once and allow themselves to be unhitched. In just a few moments, they are standing back at the ford, ready to pull the cart from the river. Yes! Awesome. So they were able to calm themselves, and Zara is relieved that she did not have to release them. And we can now pull the cart out of the river. There are cheers all around, except for Bracken, who does kind of a purrish growl, because he doesn't want to get water in his mouth, and he's still holding on, he's still trying to get out of the river. Let's try and pull the cart from the river. I'm hoping that it will count Bracken as part of our strength. If you're set and you're ready, let's do it. But be careful. The cart's full of gold or ale or something you couldn't bear to lose. Valerie frowned. Better you should trust in our dignity than our greed, Sir Gnome. The gnome rolls his eyes. By the God's sake, whatever. Just pull the cart, right? And there is everyone pulling, and Bracken is just off out of frame, pushing with the butt of his head and using his claws and the purchase of his claws to push. The cart creaked and cracked, sounding as though it were sobbing. The boards strained against the combined stress of the rushing water's pull against everyone trying to pull the cart ashore. Unfortunately for the cart, both sides were of equal strength. Something had to be done, or the poor cart would be torn to pieces. I think she'll probably go for this. She's got very high lore nature. So the roll, you know, it'll be plus 13 whenever she rolls. And this is what Zara would do. She would be focused on the animals. And she does have very high charisma. That's her highest stat. But let's go for this. And we have succeeded again. Yes! And the party is jubilant. And after everyone struggled together for a while, Bracken growling and pushing with all of his might, which is a lot, the cart finally made it out of the muddy riverbed and rolled back onto the rocky ground of the waiting ford, prompting some seemingly indignant sloshes and squelches as the river released its trophy and rushed along in search of easier prey. Losing no time, the head of the gnome expedition jumped inside, for a good while rattling and swearing to several gods were all that could be heard from the cart, until the gnome's face finally reappeared from under the rooftop, seemingly satisfied. "Almost everything's still in place," he announced cheerfully, jumping from the cart. "It's all wet and crumpled, but at least nothing's missing." "Yeah, thank you, travelers. If not for your help, guided, of course, by my keen supervision, I'd have had to say goodbye to all of my possessions." The gnome that stands before Zara and Bracken wears dirty and ragged clothes. They used to look stylish and wealthy long ago, but those times are long gone. His black hair is matted, a deep, fresh scratch across his cheek. Despite this rather pathetic look, the gnome behaves with inner dignity and even manages to maintain a superior manner. Zara looks the gnome up and down and waits for him to speak.
Jubilost Nartropple, at your grace's service. Your help with these kobolds and my almost drowned cart was timely indeed.
I wasn't even close to what his voice actor did. He introduces himself and looks closely at Zara's party.
By the way, it's a shame no one organized a greeting party when such a famous and popular person as myself arrived to your capital. I wasn't expecting a red carpet covered with rose petals, but you could at least have sent ahead some delegation.
Zara begins to wonder if she has picked herself up a little troublemaker.
Oh, at least some of my servants are still alive. Do you know how much it costs to train a proper servant?
Jubilost jabbers too fast, never stopping even to take a breath. You can see, Zara sees that he has piled up some emotions and just needs to get them out of his system. He's obviously had a rough time of it lately.
Sounds like your servants are nothing but tools to you. Truly, with masters like that, being a servant is not much of an improvement over being a slave.
Zara glances over her shoulder at Octavia and then turns back to the gnome.
What's this then? Run along, little girl, the grown-ups are talking.
The gnome sizes Octavia up from under his glasses and snorts, rolling his eyes.
So, you're not only arrogant, but a boorish swine as well. Why am I not surprised at all?
Jubilost only clears his throat, paying no attention to the fuming mage.
Also, while I'm on that, I'd like to make an official announcement. The roads in your barony are in terrible condition. People must search for wading fords to cross the rivers because no one had bothered themselves with building bridges, and honest travelers have to take the risk of being attacked by kobolds at any moment.
Zara crosses her arms, listening patiently to his complaints. Bracken pads out of the river and begins shaking himself all over, completely spraying water over the three gnomes in the back of the party.
So, what did you say your barony was called? Whatever, never mind. When I draw the map of these lands, I will call them Maybe Local Baroness Will Help. I guess it's a fitting name.
The gnome falls silent at last. He just watches you with his shifty eyes, opening and closing his mouth, as if he wants to say something more, but hasn't come up with anything just yet.
You think too highly of yourself, Sir Gnome. Behave with some dignity while you're on these lands.
Oh, I see. The very spirit of knighthood embodied. So, what do you propose me to do, Sir Knight? Should I lie?
Jubilost eyes Valerie up and down while he offers this mild rebuke and a touch of a challenge.
By no means. But you shall not be so blunt. I bid you to express your opinion in a more courteous form.
Valerie blushes, but she still tries to argue.
Your problem, Sir Knight, is that you worry too much about form and appearance. Unsurprisingly so, considering your pretty face. As for me, I worry solely about the content.
Valerie blushes even more and turns away. It seems to you that the gnome has stepped on her toes. And if he's not careful, he would step on everyone's toes in the party, except for perhaps Lindsay. Zara finds herself to be curious about such an outspoken person. And let's see. Zara says, well, though it seems that you are intent on putting the backup of all of my companions, I would say that I do not know your face. You said you were famous. What are you famous for?
That was either a stupid and offensive joke or a case of total ignorance. The latter, I hope. I'm famous as a traveler, a cartographer, an alchemist, and a journalist. The students of all the major universities study the world using my maps. My articles for different journals are well known everywhere, from Andorran to Brevoy. You've definitely read some issues of National Alchemy, haven't you?
Zara says, no, I can't say that I have.
Culinary Almanac of the Inner Sea?
Zara shakes her head, slowly.
Or the most scandalous one, The Independence, describing benefits and drawbacks of governments and regimes in different states.
Zara just shrugs her shoulders. Wishing that she could get out of this river as her feet are beginning to freeze.
Didn't read any of these. Oh, well, don't answer that. I don't want to spoil my impression of your barony. It's spoiled enough already. It would be hard for me to write at least something positive otherwise.
I like this guy in a I can't stand this guy sort of way. I really love Jubilost. He's I love his voice acting, and his character grates you the wrong way, but he grows on you, and so I think we're going to be taking him along.
Wait, the Jubilost Narthropple? Author of the 14.5 eulogies to Pitax? Oh my, every student in the Academy of Grand Arts devoured your books, especially after King Aravetti banned them, tried you in absentia, and sentenced you to death.
Zara looks at the gnome with a lot more interest now.
I see at least someone in this shabby barony has at least a rudimentary education, even if they got them in such a dubious establishment as the Pitax Academy of Grand Arts.
I was expelled for irreverence.
She says happily.
Is this so? Well, if it is true, then you just might not be beyond hope.
Zara can't help but to flick a little smile at Lindsay before she then says, so then how did you end up here? And I can't help but notice that it seems that you may have fallen upon hard times. How did your cart end up in the river?
My party and I set up camp at the bank of this river. We'd just finished kindling the fire when that purple bastard appeared. You know what he told me? He introduced himself as the King of the Kobolds and told me he needed our clothes because he wanted to dress his subjects properly, you see, as long as they've established the kingdom of their own. That's literally what he said. I wonder, where did he learn the words? Obviously, I told him to buzz off. Some kobold wants to strut around wearing the clothes of the great cartographer Jubilost Nartropple. No way.
Nartropple. Zara gets very interested at this news, and she says, something is very wrong here. I know that we killed Tartuk. We saw him dead. There's no way he could have survived that. And yet he is here, but not acting as Tartuk, not sounding as him either. Something is very strange. Jubilost.
So I've been explaining my position to him, being rather eloquent too, suggesting he and his so-called kingdom might as well fall into the deepest sinkhole. But in the meantime, I've noticed that kobolds have already started to untie my cart. Well, I called my men to keep the cart safe. They couldn't guess what to do on their own, just stood there with their mouths ajar. Then things heated up as the fighting started, and while we were fighting, the ponies dragged the cart to the river. Ah, stupid animals.
All right. So Jubilost just jumps right in there, kind of talking over the end of Zara's sentences. And Zara is paying him only half a mind, as she is very concerned about this situation with Tartuk. Anything that could bring him back from the dead, especially in the state that his body was, what there was of it, is powerful magic indeed. She wonders if bringing him back from the dead has rendered him insane. And so, why are you here, as I had said before? Why is such a famous person so far from civilization? As I will admit, my barony is rather rudimentary.
I pursued two objectives. The first is to write an article on this new barony of yours for the Independents. The second is to draw a detailed map of the stolen lands. Before this barony appeared, it had been too dangerous to come here, but now an opportunity has appeared. Thanks to you, I must add. So, as you can see, the freedom of speech sometimes grants positive comments too.
I like him.
Anyway, I'm almost done with this journey. My article is practically ready, so is the map. All that's left to do now is to find an old dwarven outpost established here several centuries ago.
And that triggers a memory with Zara. She remembers Harem coming to her and mentioning a dwarven outpost, and that he wanted to visit it again. An ancient dwarven outpost. Interesting. Zara says, I've heard of something like this from a companion of mine. What is it that you're searching for, in particular?
Your ignorance is stunning. You create a barony, and still you know nothing about the lands you own. I'll have to enlighten you on the subject.
Jubilost pouches his lips. I'm not exactly sure how you pouch your lips. Does anybody know how you do that? What's that? Is that this? I'm not sure.
You see, long ago there was a dwarven trade route crossing these lands. It connected Five Kings Mountains and the north. The route was so important to the dwarves that they were generous enough to set a number of outposts along it, manned with armed guardians to provide protection for the traders.
A dwarven trade route, says Zara. Well, and then she begins to speak, but Jubilost...
One of these outposts must be somewhere nearby, lost and completely forsaken. But nothing can avoid the watchful eye of the great cartographer Jubilost Nartropple. I will find this outpost, and I will mark its location on the map. You can trust me on that.
And then she says, do you think, having an idea coming to her, do you think this old dwarven outpost abandoned, do you imagine it so? Because it is possible it is now being used by trolls as a lair, for example.
Why not? Dwarves like being underground, trolls like being underground too. It's quite possible after dwarves left, their warm and cozy place fell into the hands of less attractive creatures.
I'm looking for the troll's lair, says Zara. That is why we set out today. They have reports of them troubling my barony have been rife. Well, this barony. As to be clear, Zara still doesn't really accept herself as a baroness. It turns out that we may be looking for the same place, Jubilost. Perhaps we could join our efforts together. You and your companions seem to be very capable with your bows and weapons.
Well, you proved to be a capable companion in a case of emergency. I guess I can entrust you with covering my back. Let's go. I will send someone for my cart later.
Zara says, well, you have pointed out that I am maybe not the best baroness yet, and I could not disagree, to be honest. I never wanted this. But I will welcome your companionship, and I will have someone come and get your cart within the next day or two. So, his quick and courteous mind led Jubilost to the stolen lands. He wanted to witness with his own eyes how our new nation flourishes, and left Absalom itself to do so. He's a renowned explorer, a famous author, and an all-around extraordinary person. Jubilost Northruple has one other special talent. He can infuriate practically anyone he speaks with. Jubilost goes to each of his team members and tells them that he will be traveling with his companions, but that he wishes to have the gnomes make their way now back to the barony, and Zara points the way, assuring them that it is safe along that road as they have just traveled it. So, while camping, we were besieged by this troll. And we definitely took down the troll with no trouble. Jubilost throwing bombs and Tristian getting that final kill. So, that troll ended up greased, set on fire, sneak attacked with acid, and scared. Shaken. Yeah. So, he had a bad day. And as Zara had remembered, Harim asked to go and see this dwarven land. And so basically the way we're going to be playing the game from this point forward as far as companions are concerned is that we're going to have 3 companions that are with us all the time. So it's Zara and Bracken, or 2. And then we're going to have, 2 more companions that are with us all the time. No, 3. I'm right, 3. 3. And those 3 companions will be like our steady companions. Jubilost is already one of them. Lindsay is a second. Now we need a third. That other spot, the 6th spot in our roster, will be filled with a rotating companion. So for example, Harim, who is not going to be one of our regular companions, but when we go to this companion quest, when we do his quest line, of course we'll have him with us. We will have that be whatever companion is important to the story at that point. And so that 6th spot in our companion lineup will always be rotating. Let's grab our goodies from him though. Oh God. Okay, Valerie went over to grab goodies and fell face first into troll grease again. She's sleeping on his foot. Valerie, come over here. Just come over here, for gosh sakes, come here. All right, so we need to finish resting, I think, because we were interrupted during that resting. Man, face first in a troll grease, man. That is what I'm talking is a bad day. Valerie runs over to the oh, we need to level Valerie up. Runs over to the she says, I'll be right back. She runs over to the river and just spends a happy half hour cleaning up all that troll grease. And while she's there, why don't we go ahead and collect everything from these kobolds while we're there. She comes back and the party says, Octavia says, thank you. You smelled awful. But unfortunately, Valerie could not help that. And we are going to continue because there's a little bit more to explore in this area, I believe. Anything over here? Nope. Oh, wait, there was. Awesome. Another item to sell to the storyteller. So I think that's the edge of the map. Zara approaches Verdel back in her barony, and it occurs to her that he may know something about the ancient dwarven fortress that both Jubilost and Harem have shared with her. She turns to him and says, do you know anything about the ancient dwarven fortress in these lands? Verdal says, nothing at all, Your Grace. 3 dwarf clans used to live in these lands. The Waradash, the Langabuk, and the Skedje. My family is Skedje. But we moved off to Mivon 200 years ago, together with Aldori, fleeing from the Conqueror. Our grandfathers made a safe bet that the Sword Lords would, well, need swords. He rubs his hand along his chin, as he always does, as if there is an invisible beard there. Anyhow, neither me nor my father had ever been to the old fortresses. I vaguely remember from grandfather's stories that the Langabuk stronghold was supposed to be somewhere nearby. But no. I'd have no idea where to look for it. Zara says, well, thank you for your help. And I appreciate learning a little bit more about the history of your people here in these lands. But for those of you guys watching on Twitch, Mixer, and YouTube, all at the Jessa channel, hang out with me because we are going to continue live. But for those of you watching the episodes later on YouTube, I am going to say goodbye to you now, and we will be back with more of Zara and Bracken's adventures as we go searching for trolls, because we've been searching for them and we're going to find them next episode, I promise. But, or at least as best as I can, hope we're going to find some trolls and do some troll butt kicking. And as always, thank you so much for joining me for Pathfinder Kingmaker, the Enhanced Edition. And thank you as always for watching.